Yeah,
something
that
like that.
Lyndon LaRouche that used to run for president.
Yeah,
Yeah, Richard Nixon's a drug dealer and we never went to the moon.
yeah, I know, it's like.
And we're gonna go on a snipe hunt again tonight.
I've been on a couple of those.
Yeah, it's,
Yeah, I saw the 5 kW
solar.
solar system sold for get under $10,000. I'm going like, whoa.
You can plug a radio in and listen to that. Can you?
Yeah. Well,
That's a-
up here you can, maybe. Depends on whether it's overcast or not.
So if you're out on the desert floor in Tucson, but not in southwestern Ohio,
Yeah, you could go solar.
he's giving me the scoop on solar and how it's been oversold. If you live in certain areas.
Uh-oh.
I guess they passed the law, if you build a new house in California, you gotta put solar panels on your house.
$10,000.
I couldn't care less what California does.
That's pretty much what I asked.
But it's entertainment. It's free entertainment here.
So I'm of a more natural perspective. My dad has brewed beer and wine for years. I think just plant something, harvest it, and turn it into alcohol, which is solar energy that you can put in a bottle, and
You don't have a
enjoy.
You don't have a storage problem then either.
Right, yeah.
Put it in a bottle.
I really have issues with lithium batteries.
Yeah.
There's just some bad chemicals in it.
Yeah.
Lithium.
Yeah.
One.
They were showing
Minor
lithium.
psychoactive
The guy was on Nova, I guess it's so light it can float on water, even though it's close to
But
metal.
you aren't gonna float lithium on water. I gotta tell you, it isn't
Well,
gonna
that's what
happen.
they said.
No, it bursts into flames.
Oh, you listen
It
to
bursts into flame if it
Yeah.
hits water.
Yeah.
Oh, it's combustible when it hits H2O.
Well, actually what it does is it has such a strong desire for oxygen.
case is
that
heavy.
it pulls the oxygen out of the water,
The case is heavier than.
converts it into heat, the hydrogen catches on fire. You get a nice pretty yellow flame.
If you do it right, I've seen it float on the top of water.
Okay. Not
Because it's
touching
kind of
the
like it's igniting on the
Okay.
top of water.
It's all
But
battery.
you have to watch out, because if it gets too active, it'll blow up like it says.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
that's
it's
why
a-
so many companies.
And
have
it's a
it.
psychotropic drug too.
I don't know.
I've got 3. I found
It's psychoactive.
a third.
What they give to people that have a couple of forms of
Schizophrenia.
dementia
Yeah.
and bipolar disorder.
Schizophrenia, yeah.
Mhm.
Schizophrenia appears to be completely different
Yep.
disease than neurological.
Where you actually are delusional.
So where'd you get that?
Micro Center.
If
My
you look at
friend
the,
Paul has a
Have
brother.
you swallowed?
if you
Have you
look
swallowed
at
it
the
yet? Why is
PET
it-
scans of the brain,
Yeah.
the cavities are enlarged and the
Yeah.
neurons are actually
Don't they have waves in
I
the
believe
brain?
whatever you tell me about the motors. I haven't found out what the motors are.
Physiology of the brain.
completely
Yeah.
different.
It's
Well, I had a great uncle
$250,
who was a
but I found it
schizophrenic.
on sale for $99.
He said it's got chemical and
You got my attention?
biological, physical.
Okay,
How
you
the
go.
brain is.
Do the comparison.
What is this? What's going on here?
That button?
Oh, that's actually the button, oh, okay.
That's the on and off button.
Oh, it has a
His
camera,
brother
in-
is
oh, the camera's integrated.
55, I think. And so he was having
Yeah,
an
another one.
emotional, he was trying
Now-
to strangle him. He said,
now-
"My
Oh,
dad
wait a minute.
pulled
Oh,
him
wait a
off
minute.
Oh, wow, how many cameras?
Out of his
He's
mind.
already
And
started.
it took them 10 years to get his meds right. He was on 9 different pills for this.
He's intrigued.
My wife, no, I think my wife, she left the phone at home. I called her.
They're trying to take inhibitors and stuff. They've been doing a wonderful job.
No GPS.
Yeah, it's GPS.
Yeah.
Yeah. GPS.
Well, he comes to our meetings once in a while. He's always very sedated. You know, he's like,
I don't know.
Anybody have any idea what these are?
Boards with things on them.
Yeah, well, that part I got.
They used to call these PWPs. wiring panels, EWD, I guess.
I can't read I tried to look it up, but I couldn't read what was on the little block.
It's interesting that what it would now would be pin 1 is in the wrong corner. Yeah, I can't. do
Antique
that.
boards he's bringing in to figure out what they are.
Yeah, we have to do a search on the internet.
Give me back, give me. I'm finished. Can I see one?
It's Ford's and Wigman.
Does he have any more boards there?
491301, Ford and Wigman.
I normally do them by the 4 big
Yeah,
transistor packs on
it's that same motors
that
he
looks
had.
like
I
it
changed
should
it so
I
many.
think
I
the
have no
only
idea.
problem is that the propellers are not
Oh, that was
standard
easier
one.
to read.
I'm very specific for them.
Yeah.
Maybe there is a way of changing if you want.
It came
Where did
with
you get
additional
that?
propellers,
Junk, box of junk.
but yes, you're right, it's a specific propeller,
Have you priced them out yet? See,
about $12.
the set or just?
For-
Yeah, I
for a
don't have any
set,
plans
yeah.
to use it in a few years.
It's not horrible,
But,
it came with a set, it came with a second set, and hopefully I can make it
Do
last.
you
That's
have
interesting. The console, it has infrared and then it has,
So,
So-
in,
So you wanna learn more about it?
I didn't notice it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Pins that aren't used, I didn't see that.
It's,
in the other
it's, it's like an IC from 1960s.
Yeah,
That's a big IC.
yeah, I pegged that one at a
Yes, it's
flip
exact.
flop.
Yeah.
I
It's
don't
a
know if
capsule
that's true or not.
some
So what I was thinking, like a transistor pack?
Yeah.
Yeah.
an array or something.
Is this like old composite?
Connect to HT dash whatever.
HT underscore something.
How old do you think it is, Steve?
Oh, wait.
These had to be from the
Then go into
late
Chrome
60s,
browser
early 70s.
and right click and a
I
cast.
don't know. I brought it in because I had no clue to,
I found, I used for my first
Or-
Raspberry. I made a basic computer with it.
Wagman?
I can use 2 gigabyte of memory. And there's no
W-A-G-N-E-R.
operating system, just basic
Oh,
running and using the video output for
oh,
Wag-
well,
That's what my
That's it.
eyes
it's working.
now you
I tried it.
give it to a kid.
Several
See,
10 minutes.
10 minutes, huh? Mass producing.
It says Forbes and Wagner, at least that's what I think it says, Wagner.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Google isn't turning anything up.
I didn't find anything that, it's one of those things where. I figured
Now, where's the
you guys
basic,
would
where'd
like
you get the
that.
basic?
Basic, yes, tiny
When I
basic. or
was a
something.
Oh, tiny basic.
Yeah, these guys weren't born,
remember
most of these
Tiny
guys
Basic.
weren't born in that era.
Download the
That's a early transistor era.
files
When you got the metal cans for
format the
transistors.
SD
that
card.
came back.
I have one Game Boy
Yeah,
or something.
I-
for
Right.
my son. 2-3
I
gig.
think,
Basic.
would that be like
Is it pretty responsive?
a thing to
Pretty good?
slide in and make
Yeah,
and
it's
not too
expand
slow.
like a computer?
Small.
It could be, it really doesn't have enough chips, it looks more to me like it's a module
Yeah,
for,
blinking
like an
LED.
HP oscilloscope or something, as a trigger source or something like that.
I will
And-
buy that.
And going by the oscilloscope pattern on the chip.
I would buy that. I would buy that for $1.
I was making a cable today.
And the rest of it,
Finish it.
Wow, that looks good.
I've seen some of those early computers that had the cards that
That's
slid in
good.
and out like that.
yeah.
It's a side table.
Forbes and Wagner, same thing, different.
Because I have
It's a workbench.
desk
I've
computer.
seen the
I need a
plug-in
table.
computers that had a tube on it,
Yeah.
12AX7 to be specific.
Yeah, I don't know, that makes as much sense as anything that it's some sort of trigger. Sort of, kind of, almost looks like a trigger.
It says GE, I guess this is GE. Future Bob.
Okay, what I need to do here.
You see me?
I sort of see you
Just
ways
get the
around
mic,
to
you'll be
what's
right
going
close
on.
to the
Irish.
I've got, yes, I see you. I've just got to move.
Oh, okay, so you're in control now.
I'm in control.
I
I just got to move you where everybody else can see.
491-302. Ah, okay, so if this is for an oscilloscope, might be that one triggers positive and the other negative, or something like
Yeah, it's close enough.
that.
Close enough for government work.
Well, no, not enough fans on the resistors for that to be for government work.
Oh, well, I wasn't talking about that government work. I was talking about that government work.
Did you put any price up? You were,
Two different government works.
you were there.
I try also with the pi zero.
Resistors
Oh,
on
nice.
it. And I thought
By the
you
way,
pulled
this is my
resistor off.
pi in corner. You don't have a Raspberry Pi 3. You know,
Oh,
in a table,
Yeah, okay.
working
Yeah.
in C,
But they didn't pull those resistors.
stop in C.
Okay, maybe let me go back. See if I have to, nope,
What are the numbers on
you still in charge?
Okay, it's past starting time, so let's get started.
What's wrong?
I can
Y'all gotta pay attention to me. Introduce ourselves.
Marcus Davis?
Vicente,
Leroy?
Mike,
Steve,
Sandy?
And I'm Jim.
Okay,
And-
Marcus, sorry to use the last name, sorry. I don't know, we're so informal.
And Marcus is, has an item for the programming tonight. And we have some miscellaneous things we might go into. We wanna go into it first?
It's up to you. If you need to cast the entire desktop though,
Yeah.
you've got to stop casting and then there's a drop down box that says cast desktop.
Yeah.
Jim can
Jim?
show you.
I'll show you. Just go to stop.
Oh, stop. Okay, so let me go here. And then stop.
Okay, and then cast to
All right, got you.
and cast desktop. My mouse is giving you crap. And then now click on meetings and share.
And then it should show up over
And then Leroy
here.
wants you to get on the screen. He'll let
He
you.
will let me, that's right.
Now it's up to me again. Why
I
can't I
hope
grab
you've
that?
been putting in good words for him. Yeah, I gotta pump him up or you won't get known.
That's right.
And we're back to close enough for government work. That's very readable. I am very happy that I found this software.
We all are. We all are.
Okay,
Where do you wanna go? You
go
going?
ahead.
I'm just gonna go?
Go ahead.
Okay, what I'm gonna talk about is this thing called ESP Now. And basically, well, let me go through the agenda. We're gonna talk about ESP Now a little bit, and then what I did is I used two different methods to implement the ESP Now. And one using two ESP 8266s, and another one using actually three ESP 86s. And it all makes sense at the end by the time I get to it, why at one point you use two and one you use three. And then we look at, anytime we start talking about putting something out there, we always gotta look at battery, right? So we gotta say, okay, what how long is it gonna last? So I did some calculations, did some playing around to
We probably need to
improve.
do an overview of what we're talking about here for people that may not know.
Okay,
This is the 8266, what is it? What's it used for?
it's a little microprocessor made by a microcontroller made by a company called Expressive. And I can pass this around if no one's seen it before, but this is actually the microcontroller there. I'll start it that way.
Now,
And
the
then it has a little,
8266 is made for Wi-Fi, it's made to be
Right.
Wi-Fi devices, and you can program it with an Arduino programmer.
jump in there, yeah, sure.
Okay. And so it's the IoT device.
Right,
It's popular,
yeah, very
Okay.
popular.
and you get multiple versions of them.
Yeah. And that version right there actually has all the extra circuitry on there to hook up to a serial port to allow you to program it. So but you can also buy the chip. If you look on there, there's a little chip and a little square chip that's actually the chip itself. But all the other stuff is peripheral stuff. You can actually buy the chip by itself and program it and stick it in something.
So it's a programmable device. It gets an IP address. It can connect to your Wi-Fi device, and it's got I/O on it, discrete I/O. Does it have analog I/O?
One has one. That's one analog pin.
So, okay.
Just one.
Just one.
Just one.
But you can program to do all kinds of stuff.
Well, one volt, right?
1.1 volt. Yeah, it's
Maximum.
not much.
Now, what's that block on there that's plugged in?
Oh, that's a little temperature sensor. That's a
Don't mess with
DH.
that temperature.
Yeah.
Temperature and humidity?
Yeah, temperature and
And
humidity sensor. Right. That's right. Yep. It was,
This is
One more
northern.
question.
That's a node
What
NCU.
does
Yeah.
that chip cost?
I have a lot.
that
Round
chip. That chip is about $3.
Man,
From
I have more
from,
than 10.
well, he probably got it for $1.50 or
Yeah.
something.
No, I pay more than 7.
flea market. And now you
3 years ago.
now if you want to go, if you don't want to go to China, you want to go like to Amazon. They actually sell it too.
Yes.
And Amazon's around $5, I believe. I think the last time actually I bought 2 for $9 from Amazon. I think it was the last time. Last time I was in a rush. sometimes you
went
can't
down
wait.
in price.
Yeah.
Every year it's going
Yeah,
down.
yeah, and especially with the ESP32s that are out now, which is the newest version of this thing, so to speak, and that price is pretty high still. You know?
One can sustain Bluetooth also. Can
Yeah.
have Bluetooth and Wi-Fi.
The 32s are around $7 a piece.
Yeah, so they're still up there, but so anyway,
For what they give you, $7 is cheap.
yeah, we gotta play with that a little more. But anyway, the thing that's cool about this ESP now that sort of opened my eyes and made me want to look at it is the fact that they call it a connectionless Wi-Fi. What that means is you don't have to have a router. You don't have to have a router to actually.
Peer-to-peer.
Yeah, it's like
Point-to-point.
peer-to-peer. And what you really have to have is, I'll show you here, is that the MAC address, understanding the MAC address on the server side. Now I'm gonna do a quick experiment here to bring this home to see if this works. I've never taken it out of the house, so it may be one of those things that worked in the lab, but it didn't work.
First of the library.
That's right.
Used to happen.
So this is actually gonna be my mailbox indicator that the mailbox open. There's a little read switch in here. And if we open the box up, actually I like these boxes. It has, of course, ESP32, ESP86, 8266 in here. Then it has this battery. I don't know if you guys play with this. Is like a lithium iron something else. Yeah, battery. It's actually a 1,000 milliamp hour battery. And so
is that the 18650?
I don't know. It's in
No, 18650s are big.
3.7
Yeah,
volts.
that'd be about an
3.7
18,300.
volts.
somewhere around 3 points
Use a
something
diode or
volts.
something.
Yeah, no, it's just standard. I mean, it's right. I don't have to put a diode on or nothing. It's 3 point whatever volts, 3.6 volts, somewhere
Now,
around
be
there.
aware some of those are dangerous
Yeah.
because the ones we buy have self-limiting current.
Right. Yeah, and I don't know. I ended up getting these from Amazon, believe it or not. And actually, Amazon, believe it or not, they call it baseline. Have you guys run into that?
Yeah.
So Amazon's come with their own product line for some of these weird things. They call it baseline.
It's an Amazon brand.
Yeah, it's Amazon.
They
brand.
said they sell basics of like toilet paper, okay, baseline toilet paper, okay.
And weird
Like the
stuff like that.
laptop bag that for my tablet, it's an Amazon basic. They have their own brand now.
Yeah.
Did you?
Has an Amazon little smile on it.
Yeah, sleep it definitely. Yeah, I'll show you. I'll let you do. Okay, so this is a magnet. You know how a reed switch work, right?
Mhm.
Okay, I'm gonna plug this in. Now we're gonna see if this is gonna work. I haven't taken it out of the lab. What should happen, and this is the cool thing about it, is that since it doesn't require a router, it doesn't care. It only cares about the MAC address. that these things, it's almost like when you Bluetooth, when you have to, what do you call it, when you make Bluetooth together?
Parent.
Yeah, pair them up when you. Yeah, really. Okay, I think I got it.
Over 50 eyes.
Okay. Nah, it's a little piezo, and I taped it up because I knew it would be in the library. Okay,
You ready?
so you just click on it and take it away. You don't have to touch it, take it away. There, Paul, yes. Ta-da. Ta-da.
Okay.
So,
Put it back, put it back.
Yeah, so this thing right here, how I have it right now, this will sit in the garage. That'll sit out, and I tested it out, the range, and so I can put it in the mail. I should have stopped that out.
How long?
Danger, Will Robinson.
Yeah, really. Okay, it should have stopped by now.
Does the magnet need to go back?
No, it just,
We are
just
not
click it
in-
again, do it
We are
again.
not in the lab anymore.
Yeah, that's right, I know. Okay, that's good. Let's try that again. It shouldn't do that. Okay, yeah, I'll hold my finger over it. Hold up. Let it boot up.
You ready? I don't know. Okay.
All right, go.
Now I use one of these on my mailbox. And they are a little squirrely. The switches are a little squirrely.
It only cares about the transition.
Mhm.
We should see.
I'm gonna shut it down and just let it sit. Oh, that's kind of weird.
You're
not
not
gonna
gonna interrupt.
Yeah.
How about, let's see if it's this.
No, yeah, it's definitely not that. It's definitely
No,
not that.
no.
It's just that.
It's all
It's here,
here.
it's here.
It's all here. It's definitely all here. Oh. I'll bring it.
Well,
Okay.
it worked.
It worked. You always got mail.
It works forever.
It's the router. It's the router.
So it does communicate. The
You're
good news
right.
is that it does communicate. So that part of it is actually good news. So.
So it should only beep for a brief while.
Yeah, and actually, the only reason I put the beeper on there really, it's actually sending a MQTT message. So the only reason I did that is so I could test it. And think about here's how I tested it. So I took we actually still have a landline. So we took the landline, put it on speaker, put it out here, ran outside. Okay. So anyway, that was the way I tested it by myself. My wife didn't want to help me, so I had to come up with a way to test it by myself. So,
My wife don't let me make the sound.
Oh, you did
Right.
Oh, yeah, she did.
The sound.
What is that?
Very-
What is that?
Turn it on. Turn it on.
I'm
What are you
testing.
doing?
I'm testing. Okay, so anyway,
Making noises.
that's the cool thing about this ESP now is the communication. So that was sort of the neat thing about it. So here's my little diagram of the little mailbox sensor. So you have two. I got ESP in here, which is the one with the little speaker thing on it, which is the server gateway sort of thing. And then you have, and basically what I'm doing, Vicente, is that I'm actually closing the reset. So that read switch is actually on this reset signal here. So that's the only thing. But it is, I do put it to sleep, put it in deep sleep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
And so this is actually the JSON that's actually sent to over MQTC, and so one of the things I always do is that notice I put, and also one cool thing about it, I'm sending the voltage of the battery, so I can pick up this signal and determine, okay, do I need to go replace the battery or not? And the other thing I added is a device ID, which I actually picked up through screwing around with Azure and Microsoft stuff, is that if you want to make it a little more secure, you pick up you have an ID associated with it, and then you say, okay, should I believe this signal coming in here? So you look at the ID, if the ID is correct, and then pass it.
I usually send the MAC address.
Okay, that's actually a good idea. And so what's going to happen, of course, is that it's a little flanged area behind where the box over. You guys, I'm sure, all seen this box before, but that's where it's going to sit, and it's actually going to sit beneath. So I don't put, even though I did test it, actually I could put it inside the box and still get the signal. if I wanted to put it inside the box, but I can hide it underneath the box.
But usually inside the box is a problem when you have packages or.
Oh, right, right, and
Yes.
exactly, or you can put it, right, I was thinking about putting it on top, but I'm gonna put it underneath it, and you'll never even see
See
it.
the antenna also
That's
out of
what
the
mine
box.
Is it? Yeah, underneath it, yeah. So that's basically, that's actually the two, and what happens is with this, the two ESP mode is that basically you just, and I'll show the program real quick here. So this is and again, it's just sort of a summation of what goes on from a programming standpoint. The client part of it, which would be the box that actually sits in the mailbox, it gets the external reset, and that comes from that little read switch. So it goes in, it starts this, and here's the thing I didn't know until I started playing with this, is that you may have already knew this, is that there's actually two Wi-Fi modes within the ESP. There's that they call a station mode, which is a standard one where you're just going to send information out to a router or to a access point. And there's also one that's actually called AP. It's called an AP. So it's set up to, so the server's actually set up to be the route. It's actually the AP, the access point. So let me get back here. So what happens is you set the Wi-Fi up, and then you actually tell your ESP that it's going into ESP now. It's going into ESP now mode. And then once it goes into ESP now mode, it goes in and it goes out and looks for its mate, in a sense, the pairing part of it. So it goes out, looks for the mate, it pairs that up, and then it starts to send the data. And after that, it goes to sleep. So it goes to sleep and waits for the next external.
Well, it's supposed to.
Yeah. Shut up. so
Everyone saw it.
yeah, so on the server side, you notice I had to modify the battery holder so it actually fit in there. So, but
That's an 18500, by the way, because
18.
I looked.
How do you check the voltage?
Huh?
How do you check the voltage of the battery?
well, once I get it in there, number one, when I buy it, because I bought a charger, of course. Those are actually
No, but you send the voltage. Right?
Oh, yeah.
How do you test it? You use the analog.
No, actually, it's integrated. It's actually
Okay, it's inside. It's a channel inside. Yes.
It's integrated. I never
Yeah,
know. I was like,
yeah,
whoa, this is awesome. I was
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
this is awesome. Yeah.
I knew that was in there, but I've never used it for
Yeah.
anything.
There is temperature also.
Yeah, there's a temperature.
Yeah, and I was like, wow, that solved a lot of problems because you don't know when your battery's draining.
Yes.
You
If
send
you
it out
use
here,
a resistor outside, a divider or something, you will drain in.
Yeah, you gotta go out there and look at LED. Okay. Okay, look at it underneath the mailbox. So that was actually awesome to see that. So what on the server side, basically, again, the server sets itself up into that AP mode. So it actually sets it up into the AP mode, and then it actually prints the MAC. And there's two ways to do that. It can actually, you can let it determine the MAC address, or you can actually, believe it or not, set the MAC address. You can actually set it. So on the Nexus, I actually set the MAC address. Here, I let it actually, that's why I say I print the MAC address. So I run the server, let it print the MAC address out, and then I say, okay, I'll take that MAC address and put it back to the client. So anyway, and after it does that, it initiates itself into the ESP mode. Now, then it sits there and just waits. Any data coming, any data. And keep in mind, this one, when it works right, it's always plugged in. So we don't worry about so much battery. We don't worry about the battery so much. So it's always plugged in. So it's just sitting there. It's just waiting. And then once it gets, I said, the magic happens because I actually didn't really know how it was doing this stuff. I kind of know a little better now, but when I wrote it, I was like, okay, the magic happens. That's good enough. so once it gets the data, it now has to initiate. It has to change from AP wireless mode to actually what they call a station mode, and then it initiates the MQTT. I'm saying that. So then it publishes the data, then it disconnects from the MQTT, and then it disconnects, then it restarts. This is the thing that sort of kills you when you first start looking at this. It has to restart. Now, the problem is that here's the problem. Here's why we had to go to a 3 uh, ESP mode, because what the problem is you have to you restart it. When you restart it, it sort of loses its brains a little bit. So the good thing is that I've sent the data over, because once you change the different wireless modes, it has to reset to go back to the AP mode. It has to reset. I can't go down here and switch back without restarting, go back here and say, okay, I'm just going to start up here again.
Is it waiting for a confirmation back that its message has been received?
No, it actually does. It actually does that. That's actually integrated into it. Does.
What I'm asking, where I'm headed is that why it doesn't stop beeping? Because it's not getting back a yes, we received your message.
Could be. I mean, it could.
From the MQTT, you're
Uh,
not connected to your Wi-Fi, so it's not sending that message to MQTT. So it's got to wait for the timeout.
I don't think. Well, I did it without the. Actually, the test is actually disconnect. Two different Wi-Fi connections. So I just disconnected it and just shut it down. So, is this thing working or not? And so it was working. It wasn't really waiting for that Wi-Fi signal, because I did shut it down. But I mean, that's a good point. Unless it, I don't know. I'll try that though. I don't think so. I don't think that's the case. But I'll have to try that and see.
He asked for sending, but
What?
maybe you don't have a confirmation.
Yeah, but if it's trying to connect to his Wi-Fi at home, and obviously he's not at home, it can't connect, so it never can connect to the MQTT server. So there's got to be like a 4 or 5 minute timeout or 3 minute timeout before it times out,
That's a good point.
and you lose a message.
That's a good point. Yeah.
So I bet that's what's happening.
Yeah, it may be something, possibility. So let's move on to the 3. Now, why would you use one of these 3 ESP? And
Because they are cheap.
because they that's absolutely true. And actually, matter of fact, I'll pass this around, which is this is actually 2. So in this box right here, there's actually these 2 right here. Oh, wait a minute. Wrong one. Right here. This one right here. These 2 at the end is actually in one box.
You have
The server part, yeah. They're actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm with you. I see what's going on.
So you can see there's 2.
And then you don't need to reset when you have this.
You're so genius. So that was actually the part. The one problem with resetting. Now it's a mailbox, so it's not like the mailbox will be open all the time. But what if you want to hook up? You can hook it as many. ESP now allows you to do 10 basic clients. You can do 10. Now, they have an encryption that you can turn on. If you go to the encryption part of it, you get down to 5. So I'm saying, okay, I may want to hook multiples up. And then I found out is that I was like missing. You start missing because keep in mind the thing is resetting, right? It's reset itself. So it's like,
And you can have several sensors,
right.
windows, and
it was missing some. So that's sort of why I started looking for another solution for this. Because first time I read through it, it's like, I want to do the easy stuff. So I did the 2. I did the 2, and it actually worked. So I was happy with the 2. And then also I ran into the brick wall and said, okay, what if I'm sending multiples? I want to send multiple signals to it, and it's like, it's missing. So it's skipping things. So anyway, how this thing basically works, and again, this is actually sending humidity and temperature data. So it's actually, again, down here is the JSON string, is sending temperature, it's sending humidity. It also sending that supply voltage and a device ID. So basically how this works is, and I'm sure you guys already figured it out, I didn't like it when I heard I got to send data serially. I didn't really even like it. Just to, we used to send stuff wirelessly. I mean, we don't want to go back onto this old technology that's been around since, the Middle Ages or something. I mean, we've been sending serial RS-232 data for, oh my God, 30, 40 years. I mean, it's so, probably 50. Yeah,
Because
exactly.
it works.
So but it's like for us, like, oh, cereal. Oh, I don't want to do that. But like you said, it worked. Once I was able to figure it out, so basically I'm just hooking up the serial connection to these two pins, and you have to go in and just basically configure the pins, and it was
Like soft cereal,
yeah,
software
exactly.
cereal.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, but it works like a charm. I can sit there. I can almost sit there and almost simultaneously hit two at the same time, and if sometime it'll actually get through. I mean, if I'm doing this at the same time, sometimes it'll actually get through, and sometimes it'll miss one of them. So, but that's close enough, So you can always send back an acknowledgement or something to have it resend the data. So that's the reason. But the ESP now, in a nutshell, I really like, because again, the other thing that you don't have to deal with is that it's the time lag between when you're actually going out and you have a router. It's actually going out and communicate with the router. It's a lot slower. This takes about to establish the communication. It's less than a second. It's less than a second. So if you think about back to my failed, where'd it go? Oh, there it is. Yeah, this failed thing. So back to this. This is actually gonna sit in the mailbox. It's actually gonna sit in the mailbox. So the least amount of time that you're ramping this thing up to communicate with wireless, the better, of course. And so I'm under a second, so that's pretty good. And I did do some calculations here. So let me quickly go through this is the 3ESP version, which is again it's similar. I'll skip all. I mean, this basically here is the same thing, because this part is actually goes through, established everything, and goes to sleep. And that's all it is. It just goes to sleep and waits for that external reset. The difference here is the serial port. So you're setting up a serial port connection, and you're doing that on both and I just call these ESP now to serial node, and then ESP now to the actually it's wrong. This is actually ESP now to ESP serial. This should have been serial, and this would have been wireless. Oh, sorry. Go back. Yeah, the third ESP actually allows us to get wireless again. So again, what we had to do before, see how this is going to wireless, this is going to a wireless station mode, and it's not changing. So it stays in that mode, so there's no reason for it to reset itself down here. And this one is actually going into the AP mode, the access point mode. So that's the thing where you're adding that second one. You don't have to do that reset part of it. Because again, it takes time, blah, blah, blah. Your basically your ESP is not available at a certain amount of time to receive data. So that's why I went to the 3. And actually, I like the 3 better, even though I don't know if I'm going to change that one for the mailbox. I'll probably just leave it alone, just use it as is. But if ultimately to use this a little better. One of the things that Leroy showed it a while back ago, where he actually was using what's that technology?
Laura.
Laura, yeah, Laura, and that's the thing. I mean, Laura's a little expensive. When you start reading on it, the communication's a little more complex. So it's like, oh, okay, is this thing always gonna work? So you could actually use
I mean, it's weird, because I could not get ESP now to work. Period. End of story. End of discussion. Laura, no problem. And it's far more complicated.
Yeah, exactly. And I know, and I will admit, I mean, it took me a while to just even understand what's going on. You get is it working? Is it not working? And you just start playing around with, you beat on it, it started working. Like, wow,
It works.
It's like, then you go back and figure out what you did to make it work. Because sometimes you just you just experiment around. You read the stuff and you're just like, okay,
Well,
that doesn't make sense. That doesn't make sense to me. I don't know what it means. Then once you do it, it sort of starts to make more sense. And that's why I said I had that box that said magic happens. At that point, it was like magic. I don't know what the heck he's doing.
It's magic. Yeah, that's pretty much how I figure lore out too. It's magic.
Yeah. So,
There's
but,
magic in that little box.
but I think once you get it
I read
working,
a lot about it and don't understand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't understand it, and I use it.
and once you break it, then you have to go back and figure out how you broke it.
How it broke.
Yeah, and then you just start making a little sense, So anyway, so I did some power drain stuff, and no, I didn't have that go current standard thing. Anybody that watches YouTube stuff will know what that means. It's this box that all the guys on YouTube that does this analysis of this, microamps and microcurrents. They use this one standard, and it basically makes it more accurate. I just got a photon meter and say, okay, it's close enough. So what I did is that, and I found this on the web, of course, where we find everything. And that's the glory days of where we are. Is that what they recommended on these? And I actually did this. You may be able to see it if I pass that back around. Not with my eyes. Yeah, yeah, you can actually see it on there. If you look back on here, first thing, and I did them in steps. I actually removed the regulator. So here's the deep sleep. So in deep sleep, if all the components are on there, it takes 19.8 milliamps. When it's sending data, it takes 134 milliamps. Dang, their battery ain't gonna last very long. So then I removed this regulator. This is actually the regulator on the board. So I actually took it all the way off. He actually just broke the connection here. I took it all the way off. So I removed the regulator. Now in deep sleep mode, I'm down to 16.3 milliamps, and when I'm sending data, I'm at 100. And again, sending data only takes about less than less than a second. So then I disconnected the power to this UART, which is responsible for the serial communication. And so I disconnected that, and deep sleep, baby, I'm down to 21 microamps.
Using software, right?
Yeah.
Power down there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so I'm down to on sleep, and of course, keep in mind this thing's gonna sleep. His whole life is sleep. I mean, it's gonna send probably. I open the mailbox, the mailman opened the mailbox. Maybe four. I estimated 4 times a day is probably the maximum times the mailbox can be open. So basically, it turns out is that this 86 milliamps sort of goes away, and actually the calculation down here. Where's the mathematician in here? Okay, so I have a 100 milliamp hour battery, and at 86 milliamps, and I did this crazy calculation, so I had to convert it 36,000 seconds to an hour. So what I ended up with is I got 42K seconds. So whatever that is. So I got 20. So if we look at the battery drain for an 86 milliamp, we're talking 28 years my battery's gonna last. So I just scratched that out and don't worry about that part, and went up to the deep sleep and said, okay, the approximation is that with that battery, and of course the battery's not perfect. It's not gonna be ideal. It's gonna be cold, hot, cold. But right now in the ideal situation, that battery should last about 5 years. That's one of those moments. If it lasts a year, you're elated. I mean, if you get 2 years out of it, it's like, wow, that's awesome.
Now, at this point, with your disconnected, you can't reprogram.
Exactly. And what I started looking to just because that's where our crazy minds go, is to try to do the ESPs without all the extra stuff and build a circuit so I can program the thing outside of having it. But again, it's $3. it's $3, but the problem is that sometimes on these ESP, I'm sure you ran into it, the program gets corrupt. The program gets corrupt, and one of the things that I'm starting to do, because it happened with my I have a and I brought it in here at one point. I have a little panel, and actually it's this panel, almost this panel right here, and it's running ran by a Raspberry Pi, and all of a sudden it just pooped out, stopped working. Oh God! now I gotta go figure this out. And so it's like, for me now, it's like, I just, put two of them, just make two of them, have the other one, the backup. Or also, when you're doing this stuff, when you're figuring all this stuff out, try to figure out, okay, when it breaks, how can I go back and configure everything right so I can test it again? Because you know how it works. I mean, we think we're gonna remember. We think we're gonna remember. We go back to, okay, you're 800 projects down the road. You haven't touched it in 6 months, and it's like,
Yeah. Don't ask me a question about a project I did 5 years ago.
But this is 5 months ago.
I know, and that's what it feels like. I mean, I remember when I worked at Millicron years ago, we used to have our 2 boxes, and you pay your 2 boxes, and that's like, okay, you just leave it on a Friday. I'll remember what I was doing when I left. That's like you get like, what the heck was I doing?
I'm sure
That was
you've
all
seen the
2
ESP
days ago.
826601 models.
Yeah.
They're just a chip
Yeah.
and 6 pins, 8 pins.
Yeah.
That probably would work great. I mean, there's nothing
Yeah.
there's nothing to them.
I will tell you, and I wish I can't get on the internet here, but I
You
wish I
need
could
to
show you.
remove
They had this. The first ones
You
that
what?
came out
the
were
LED.
hobbyists. Dream,
Or
because
something.
but they only have 6 pins. They got less memory on them, so you have to sort of put in all the programming stuff to program. I had a horrible when I first started playing with them. I had a bad time with them. Matter of fact,
Frank did too,
Yeah.
and they now make an actual programmer for
Right.
them. You just slide it in, plug it in, program it, unplug it, and use it.
the problem I started having with it, I would lose my program. It would work, and all of a sudden it stopped. And maybe I didn't put a capacitor on it or something like that. I don't know. I don't remember now. But
Some of the early ones
yeah,
had that
but it
problem.
was like I was having so much problem. It just I was looking for something else. And once the MCUs came out,
Mhm.
they,
The
the
nodes.
MCUs is
Everything's
what they call the MCU is like this right here is just basically the microcontroller, but all this other stuff, when you put all this stuff together, they call it the MCU, microcontroller unit. Yeah, microcontroller unit. So they put all this stuff together and they make it easy for you to program. And it's just, I mean, again, $3. $1.50. So
You can get the O1 chips for like 99 cents.
yeah, and
But if you're going through and you're removing regulators and all that, the O1s don't have any of that stuff.
yeah, and I may go back and look at them again because it's just that first time it was like I was running away from them because they kept on losing their brains.
Yeah, I think he's right. I think they've got a little LED on them and that's it. And you can unsolder that or
Yeah, I see a lot of people doing
pop
that.
that LED off of it.
So anyway, I think that is it. So I basically, in summary, and all this stuff is that you sort of go down the road, you learn as you go, and what I definitely my feeling is number one, the input from these guys about not having to remove the regulator, but it was fun doing it. I mean, it's like you get a sectional knife, get your little magnifiers out, and try to cut the trace and all this stuff, But it's that ultimately is I think that the three SP now, and I know, matter of fact, I got excited. I think it was about 3 months ago, 3 months ago, you were actually were gonna look into this, and I looked into it briefly. And the problem was is that you can't do the wireless thing at the end. I threw it out once because we talked on the way out, and I said, if you can't connect up to the internet, if you can't connect up, it was useless. And so I started doing a little research on it and found this guy, he actually would change the different wireless modes. And once you change the wireless mode, you can get back out to the internet. Because if you can't get out of the internet, what's the use? You just got something that can communicate with each other and it's not going anywhere. So that was the reason I sort of got away from it. And then when I went back and for some reason I read something, let me go try this. And then like I said, I tried the two SP modes and I said, that's cool. That'll work for my mailbox. And then once I found the 3, it's like, okay, now we're here. And then once I found those batteries, and then it did the battery drain calculation, it's like, okay, now I'm sold. So anyway, any questions, answers?
See, he actually did the calculations. I threw a battery on something and threw it out on my desk for a month and let it
talk
die.
about the 5 years is the life of the battery itself.
No, 5 years is if you look at just the deep sleep current with 21
In the
microamps.
self-brain.
Oh yeah, this one, yeah, the curve. Oh yeah, the curve for it stays up pretty. Yeah, it stays up pretty. Its curve is actually pretty level, and then it goes off. So you may be right. You may be right. It may turn out that it gets down and it stops at 2 point something volts.
Those, yeah, they drop off. When they drop off
Correct,
fast.
yeah. So it may, yeah, again, that's actually a good point. And that's what I was saying. I may be, instead of 5 years, I may be back to 2 years, but 2 years is good for me.
One quick question, do you program that in the Arduino IDE, or is it something else?
I do, yeah, I do. Actually, I could use Visual Studio, which is what I use a lot of times, but I just decided to just stay with the Arduino, keep it simple, because, it's just, I mean, everything, it's simple programming, right? I mean, most of this programming that we're doing, these things, it's just simple programming. It's nothing complex about it. So I'd say I'll just stay there, Arduino program. Yep, everything there, just, download the libraries and wham, bam, we're good to go. So, yep.
I got the mailbox alarm thing going at the house. I've had it for like a year. In my folder, there's a description of this. With mine, I just used a doorbell and a reed switch and a capacitor and resistor. But the main thing you want dealing with the United States Postal Service is a governmental agency. I'm sure they don't want much on this door. So all I have on my door is a tie wrap, super glued to the bottom of the door, sticking back under the mailbox itself with a magnet on it. And the reed switch mounted up above it, and there's actually something to keep it from going down any further. So it rests on that. And so when you pull the door open, this nylon tie wrap pushes the magnet up, and the tie wrap takes any slack that's in there, it bends.
Ah,
So you don't have to worry
not
about
bad.
precise
I was
dimensions.
kind of wondering how that was going to work.
And then it just does the box. So that keeps everything away from the door. You don't really notice it. If you have a white nylon strap, you probably want to paint it black. I happen to have a black one. But it's not a regular nylon strap. It's actually a heavy duty one.
Now, what's your magnet? Where did you get your? See, this
It's
magnet.
one very similar to that.
And I do almost the same thing, but mine's a little less, because I put the magnet right here. Actually, the magnet's right here, and the reed switch is actually sitting there. So when it opens, and it doesn't have to touch it. It can actually be almost as far as 2 inches away.
Yeah.
To trigger it. So but that's actually a good idea.
Yeah, I didn't want
that.
I wanted to have some slack, and if I did that, I would have to have it pretty precise.
Yeah.
And it was a little too close to the door for me. But there's several ways to do that. And now I actually got my Mercury not relays, but they're the little bulb, Mercury bulb.
Oh right, yeah.
I was able to get some of those. I got like 30 of them for a couple of bucks. I'm like,
Yeah, tilt sensor. That's right. The tilt sensor.
tilt sensors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can pick those up out of old thermostats real frequently and free then.
Yeah, but these are very small.
Yeah.
They're smaller than, like a Christmas tree light bulb, the miniatures.
Yeah.
Okay.
They also make some of those that have 5 contacts, and it gives you direction as well.
Do they still sell, because they're Mercury, they still sell them these days? No?
Yeah.
They don't?
Yes, yes.
Right,
I bought 10 micro switch, like a bubble, glass bubble.
Right, yeah.
In eBay, AliExpress, everywhere you can find it. But I think that is a legal reason that the mercury is prohibited in the thermostats.
Right.
I had some mercury spill one day, and I gathered it up and took it down to the fire station to have them dispose it, and they looked at me like I was nuts. I'm like, it's mercury, guys. It's supposed to be bad.
The problem is the vapor. When it gets hot, it's
That
very,
makes
very
sense.
dangerous. But in metal state, it's
Yeah.
completely.
Well, that might be why they looked at me like I
No,
was.
you
I
still
used
wanna
to- I used to
dispose of it.
play-
You still wanna get it out of there. I think you still want.
I used to play a lot with mercury because my father was my father worked in air conditioning.
Yeah.
And all the thermostats when get bad or something,
Yeah.
I collect them and make bottles of mercury to play with them.
Quicksilver.
You said in mercury in what state is not
No, in metal state, when you see in the
blobbing
at the
around?
room temperature,
When it's
it's
fun,
not a
it's
problem.
not bad.
When it's,
The problem,
When it's
Still
fun,
fun, it's not bad.
when it's still fun.
so when it's liquid and blobby, you're not gonna hurt, it's not gonna hurt you.
I wouldn't play with it.
Yeah.
And don't drink it.
I will give this as a warning. At one point in school, I spilled some mercury and the teacher went to clean it up. It is amazing how much mercury attacks gold rings.
Ooh, that's right.
Yes,
Yeah.
And silver too. It'll clean silver up, but later on, it's not so good.
Yeah. Make her ring really, really shiny.
Yeah.
Looser on her fingers.
It's looser.
Yeah.
So it's
It
greasy,
eats it.
isn't it?
Yeah, that's how they used to get gold out of ore.
I think
They
Amazon
mix in
so
mercury
mercury
and
switches.
stir it
Yeah,
up,
I bought some on
filter it out,
eBay
and then
not too
boil
long
off the
ago.
Me
mercury.
too, I have a bag of 10 of them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
little tiny things.
But there also is a mini mini
So that mercury in a boil
cans
state, that's
with
not
a,
good.
Yes, Mike.
a ball, a steel ball inside. It can be used for the same thing.
Send this information to the host.
It's a field sensor or something like
Before it goes into the deep sleep.
No, right now I didn't. I have to program that myself. It wasn't like integrated in it, so I haven't done that yet. But that's ultimately what I want to actually do.
I didn't know whether
That little-
got acknowledged or not.
Right. I mean, typically I don't unless something else, unless the magic part of something else is happening. That's what and Steve. Okay, yeah. So that's what Steve, indicated. So I'm going to test it to see if something else is happening. And again, some of this stuff you don't know. I mean, some of that the protocol itself could have some of that already integrated in it.
Okay, so if you use some of these devices for window trigger switches or such, you want an acknowledgement before it went on. Could you also ask if is the window closed or open?
Yeah, you can if I need to. I mean, in this case, I don't really care. I just want it triggered, right? I mean, in this case, I just want a trigger.
Yeah,
Because
battery
I don't-
life goes down if you have
Yeah.
if you make it so that it respond to a trigger.
Yeah.
But, 47 years of battery life doesn't sound like a big problem.
Right. No. Yeah. And it actually, yes. Yeah. But ultimately the whole battery life. I mean, I'm gonna say 2 to 5 years. It has, but I mean, I could, but that's in a sense it says keep it simple, stupid, right? All I care about in this case is that I don't care. Just like I could say, because sometimes I'm riding down the road, you see people's mailbox open, especially those kind of their
Yeah.
mailboxes are open. The wind's either blowing or that little tab on there has gotten worn out. So I would love to know, is my mailbox open?
Well, the envelope's too big to fit the box.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So I could take it to another level, but again, I think sometime when you're engineering something, or this is that we have to go to a point where stop all the design that can go into this thing, because
Absolutely, I
and that's sort of it, because when you're doing this, you're thinking, oh, what else? Oh, I want the door to know when the door opens up. I want to know if the door's closed. So I'm like,
you need to stop in some
Yeah.
moments.
And the more of that kind of stuff that you add to it, the more you're using the battery. And if you're on a remote site like that, battery life is what you want to conserve. You don't want to be using that battery a whole lot.
so
I understand, but depending upon the situation,
Well,
you may wish to do that.
It would depend on a specific use case. You could program it to tell you anything in the world.
Right, and that's just like on my garage door, and how yours is. My garage door, all I care about is it's open. I don't care about it. I don't sense that it's closed. I just sense that it's open. I sense that if it closes up, if it's not open, it must be closed. But I can't tell you that it's closed, but I can tell you that it's actually open. But so it's just that part of where you cut off. Look at Steve's thinking.
Oh, no, that's, most garage doors do have two sensors.
Yeah, but my sensor was actually integrated into.
Oh, yeah, yours senses motor torque.
Yeah, exactly. It's
Okay.
inside the thing. But for me to want to take that signal out and push it back to a microcontroller, I basically have the magnet read switch and say, okay, it's up, it's up. That's what I care about.
But the only reason that you care that it's up is when you're driving out. If it's 2 o'clock in the morning, you're more concerned that it's closed. I would have put the read at the bottom.
Actually, let me think about that for a second.
I mean, if it's open, you're probably in there getting ready to leave, you know.
It's been a while. You know about this.
Oh,
Because
yeah,
I put-
you didn't leave remarks in schedule.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, because I can't. It doesn't have to be. It is. Man, I can't think about it now. You're getting
Getting
confused.
the brain
Sorry.
all popped and turned.
Yeah.
For what he's saying, keeping the same transmitter encode, on the receiver, you could put the push button and an LED. After you get the mail, you come
Right.
in, you push the button.
Yeah.
Now it's off. If you ever walk by and it's on, it must have opened.
Right.
Even if you missed the buzzer.
And that's exactly, and that, to your point about the buzzer really was just for testing, because the data's actually going back to a computer which is actually going to display, so I'll actually have the time that it actually triggered.
Okay, yeah.
So I'll have the time that it triggered, so you look on the trigger and say, okay, well, it triggered at such and such time, like I must got mail.
And then you acknowledge.
Yeah,
it.
exactly, yeah, and,
Turns
yeah.
green or
Yeah,
something.
exactly. Or I have a timeout that at the end of the day it says, okay, the mailbox it resets it for another day. You know, I don't know if you. It was one of those we used to use at a company. One of those sensors that have what's the gate called around it when GPS when you have the parameter for the GPS. But it basically the fencing. It's like the fencing. So you set the fencing up to a certain parameter, and we had it for so we know when employees are at work or gone.
Mhm.
And so, but at the end of it, so sometimes it would malfunction or somebody didn't have their phone or somebody, something. So at the end of the day, at 12 midnight, I think it was automatically reset everything. Say, okay, nobody's here now. And it'll reset everything back so it would wait for the next day. So that's sort of the thought I had is that okay, at 9 o'clock at night, okay, we looked at it, we figured out we got mail, or if we don't have mail, it just resets everything back. So.
Anything else? Anybody else wanna talk about something? Leroy?
Oh.
Excuse me, what communication technology you use in your
It's a
mail?
wireless doorbell.
Excuse me?
It's a wireless doorbell.
Oh, and it has the range. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it has the battery life cause it has the capacitor is charged up by the transmitters in series with the capacitor. And so when the read switch is engaged, it shorts out and puts the battery voltage on the transmitter. And then if they don't shut the door, it just charges up
Yeah,
the
yeah.
capacitor.
Gotcha.
Doesn't matter.
Yes.
So that's on there. A little different. It's in my folder if you want to look at it.
Everybody knows last week Jim brought his quad down and
GPS quad.
his GPS quad.
That's a big deal.
And we went out and flew it. And
It's strong, man.
in strong.
That was impressive. Because I've tried to fly mine manually. I mean, it's dogged. I mean, it can't even handle. I mean, that wind out there would have killed it, especially going the distance you went up.
Yeah. Yeah. His was impressive. So I don't know. I searched Micro Center website all the time just for deals, just for stuff, and I saw this thing for $99. So I quickly looked because it was the last one. So nobody else is getting one. It's just me. But I quickly looked at some reviews and some other stuff and went, okay, $250 drone, 99 bucks. Reviews are 3 and 4s. They're not fantastic. They're not bad. Most of the complaints for it were issues with connecting to the phone. Well, that's actually a big deal because the phone is the controller. So there's no controller for it. So anyway, still 99 bucks. People were actually quite happy with this drone at 200 bucks. So 99 bucks, it's a fantastic deal. It's got the GPS. It's got an additional infrared sensor and an additional camera sensor on the bottom. So it can hover in one spot, even indoors. It's taking pictures of the area that's on or over.
It's a mouse with propellers.
It's a mouse with propellers.
This is a flow.
I honestly don't know how it works because I can't really find out a whole lot about.
Optical flow.
Yeah,
Is the technique to maintain the image in the same place.
yeah. I think that's how it's
Feel that
working.
it's moving in one direction, you compensate.
I think.
So don't push something under it while it's flying. Or
Oh,
It's
it's gonna
white
go
or
crazy, yeah.
have no differences in.
Well,
it's
the
a
one
problem.
thing I tried it inside the first time, and it needs a lot of light to fly indoors. My place is pretty dark, and it couldn't see anything, and it was just freaking out, and it was going all over the place. And I was like, so you'll notice, I've been a couple of propellers and whatever because I'm an idiot and flying it indoors. Took it outdoors, pretty high winds. Thing is very, very stable, very steady. Just as easy to fly as Jim's. I can't quite get the height off of it. Last night I've got video that I plan on posting, but last night I picked my wife up at Kroger's where she works, 1 o'clock in the morning, 12:45 in the morning, right before the storm came through. So the winds were just ungodly bad. It did fantastic. I noticed, when I got it up in the air, it was doing this bobbing up and down, where the wind was either grabbing it and forcing it up or forcing it down, and it was going back and maintaining where it was at. And that was really the first time I've ever that I saw it do that. I ended up with 2 batteries. Well, I ended up with 3 batteries because Walmart was selling the batteries for 15 bucks. It comes with 2 batteries. It comes with this little case. It comes with the battery charger, propellers, and everything. I mean, it was a fantastic deal for 100 bucks.
Flight time,
About 10 minutes, give or take.
and he says it has waypoints.
I can do GPS waypoints on the software. I haven't tried that yet, but it's one of the things. It does a follow me. It does pilot mode, which I'm going to try again and take the GPS off, so maybe I could go higher.
Does it follow you? Is it directly above or behind you?
It's about 3. It depends. It lets you set where you want it to be. Its default is about 6 feet away.
Okay. So I was just curious, is it centering on its image of you in the IR sensor, or is it following your phone?
Yes. It's supposed to be from this camera.
Oh, really?
I was walking pretty fast. I've got video of it. I was walking pretty fast, and it lost me. So I don't think it's following the phone.
It can't go a jog.
I-
Slow down.
Well, I took and rotated it back to where I was, and then it seemed like it wanted to start to follow me now. I think it's talking with the phone. It's because it was kind of trying to search for me, but it lost me.
It's also been trying.
Pretty much.
Squirrel.
my bald head.
Does
the
it go
grass
for
or-
blowing or whatever?
I don't know. I don't really like to follow me.
Is it
I'll have to
just
play with it more.
follow a body-shaped object, or is it facial recognition?
Well, it said in the app, it said that I was supposed to be able to select what I wanted it to follow,
Mhm.
and it would follow that. But it never gave me the option to actually select anything.
Okay.
Gets you out of that stopper stuff. Can get you out of it.
So,
Don't do that. Wasn't me.
I need to play around with it a little bit more. I'm not real comfortable with wanting to fly it inside yet. I think it would do fine here because there's a lot of light. But I'll fly it anywhere outside. This thing, I mean, it's fantastic. It's easy to use. Works at 5 gigahertz.
Really? Cool.
It's got geofencing, which
Yeah, that's what I asked last time.
yeah,
too.
it's got some geofencing in it that I think Jim's right. I think if I turn off the GPS, I'll be able to go a whole lot higher. The geofencing limits me to about 30 feet right now, which I don't understand. But I could go out 200, 300 feet away from me, but I can only go 30 foot high.
Did you live near an airport?
No. No, I'm
By default, mine came with, 30 foot, but you take it off beginner, go into one of the screens and put it in regular.
Maybe a
mode.
setting
You adjust
that,
both
that
parameters.
limits
well. I think what they've done, I think what they've done is in the software they flip flopped the two because the height thing actually says 200 and some odd feet, and the range says 30 foot, but it seems like it's exactly opposite. I think they flip flopped it in the
I don't wanna
software.
check the firmware, check the firmware update.
It updated as soon as I connected it. It updated. I said, okay.
Cool. What's it worth?
So most of this is battery weight. And the battery doesn't weigh much at all.
How'd John say?
It came with that nifty little charger.
And the usual
Takes-
charge time is 30 minutes.
Takes about 30 minutes to charge it up.
My charge time is 3 hours plus.
Because that toast the batteries with, 30 minutes.
No,
It's come with its own charger.
Yeah, I think,
That's probably okay.
yeah, I think it's.
Should be designed for it.
Yeah, I think he has that, he has that proprietary design stuff in this one. I think and yours may have a lot of the standard stuff. I know mine is a lot of standard batteries and all.
It does get warm when you're flying it. So, but it's not hot. It's warm. It's warm enough to know that it's working.
So what's the resolution on the camera?
So it's supposed to be 4K. It's more like 1080.
That ain't bad.
Yeah, really, it's like, okay.
It's more like 1080. It sends 720 to the phone,
Okay.
but it records it.
So it's got an SD card or something?
Yeah. It's internal memory. I can't replace 16 gigs. It can't. I suppose I could find.
I'm sure you
Good
could.
feature is you can plug into it and see it through your USB card. Mine, you have to pull the chip out.
The USB. It's got a USB port, so it plugs in and enumerates as a camera.
Very cool.
It's just how.
As long as you can still find it.
Yeah. Well, I haven't done it yet because I don't want to, but it says if it's flying and it loses your phone, it will stop immediately and hover for 1 minute, and then it will return to its home position and land. I took it to Monroe Baseball Diamond Park, set it on one of the bases. Did it several times, so I know it's not a fluke. Flew it around a bunch of times, told it to auto land, it landed on the edge of the base every single time.
Hmm.
So I was like, you know, within 4 or 5 inches of where it took off. I mean, perfect.
Better than I could do.
Now yesterday in the high winds at Kroger's, I mean, the winds were extremely high. It landed about a foot off of where
It was dark too, though, wasn't it?
and it was
It
dark.
was dark, right?
Yeah, and it landed about a foot off of where it should. But I wasn't complaining because that's still really close.
Yeah, you just wanted to come back so you could find it. I mean, okay, it didn't.
I ran it out of battery one time, told it, I saw it, you know, sitting there flashing at me, go, hey fool, no battery. And I said, home. It started to raise up to go home. I get beep, 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 and it auto landed right where it was at, and I was like, okay. So it didn't try to kill itself. It just knew, hey, I don't have enough power to even get back home. You're gonna have to come and find me.
Little AI here. I was just like, oh, okay.
So
I don't think I can make it back to you.
Well, I was pretty impressed with that because that means you're probably not going to kill it. I mean, it's probably going to protect itself as best as you can. There is a feature that it's like a kill like yours. If it's in the air or wherever, you can hit this button and it'll just plummet to the ground, and that would probably be the only way that you can kill it.
How much ammo can it carry?
Yeah.
That is actually the scary part about these things.
I'm going.
Absolutely.
I don't know. I wanted to put because the software on here shows how high it is, how some other stuff, a bunch of sensor data, but none of that gets recorded to the SD card. And I was thinking if I could stick like a small altimeter on there or something and just record all that, I could overlay it onto the video later.
I'd be surprised if it doesn't give you latitude, longitude, and altitude in the
Software.
image.
If it does, I don't see it anymore. Oh, you mean
in
in
the
the
JPEG or
the
whatever.
metadata?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure it does. I'm sure it gives, yeah, because it timestamps it, so I know it's. Yeah.
There's at least something in there. I would expect latitude, longitude, altitude there.
It does
It should
timestamp
have
it.
those.
Do what?
Do hollow points way less.
I think as long as we mount them to the top, but we gotta watch where the blades are. So.
Now
I'm sure somebody's tried that.
mine does have the phone controller too, for the right software.